نبدأ. Assalamu alaikum. Today what we have is chapter 3, contracts. We have this chapter as one of the main points we have to look at that study as one main section of commercial law. Contract is one of the main divisions in civil law. Once we study contract, it doesn't matter, this can be in civil or commercial law, then we can understand how we can make a contract, how we can legally establish a fact of responsibility and liability between two or more parties. It's not like agency. In this chapter we would have to look at two parties, A and B only. As you can see, that what we have in this chapter simply is something we do use on a daily basis. Contract is something we have most likely every day, every week. Most of you make contracts on daily basis. When you buy a sandwich from the canteen, when you buy a cup of coffee, when you buy clothes, a headscarf, when you pay for the taxi driver when you come, all these are contracts. So how many times per day do we make contract? It's many times. Now most people do not consider these to be legal contracts because we just assume that we are taking an action, it's an activity. But this activity, in fact, it's a legal contract, legally binding relationship between two parties. A contract is an essential component of commercial law. We have to study it as well in civil law, but our focus today is what does it mean contract in commercial law? How can we establish it? What kind of conditions do we need? What situations can affect the contract, the existence of the contract? How can we end it? How can we enforce it? How many parties can we have? As you can see, that most likely you have two parties, two persons, A and B. They can be natural persons, they can be fictitious persons. It can be a company, it can be an institute, it can be an organization, it can be a human being. Anyone can make a contract. It's not only sale, we have many types of contracts. But the most common type of contract is sale of goods. You can sell service, you can sell goods. You can rent, you can hire, you can sign insurance contract with a company. There are many ways in which we can sign a contract, we can make it. How can we define a contract? It's not difficult. Once we look at this equation here, A and B, somebody will make an offer and the second will make an acceptance. Simply, if I would like to buy a laptop, it's mine. I would sell you the laptop for $500. Then I make the offer and you make the acceptance. One party is making the offer and the second making the acceptance. So both of them are making something which is called consent. Consent is acceptance by both sides. Both of them have making this consent, accepting the offer, accepting to make the contract. Offer and acceptance, and by this offer and acceptance we will have a contract. Of course we're going to have the intention, because a contract with no intention, it's not a contract. In some cases, in some situations, you have to write it down, but most likely contract can be made orally, not written down. We can define a contract simply, as you can see here. Contract is legally binding exchange. Legally binding exchange of promises. So I can make a promise, or even here, agreement to enforce something, to deliver. You can promise or you can deliver. It goes for the same point. So contract is based on offer and acceptance by a promise and a promise, delivering the goods and the items and the money. In the past, in the Latin word, in the Latin language, contract meant bags. Bags must be kept. Bagged, it's a contract at the same time. It means a contract. Bags must be kept. Now, if you look again here, you'll find that two people signing a contract, this would result in obligations. These obligations on both sides, delivering the goods, getting the money. It's something called consideration. It's the value, the money I would pay and the item I would receive. It's here, A would do something and B would do something, and both of them have obligations. These obligations came from the contract, from making the offer and making the acceptance. These are results, obligations. What shall I do and what shall you do? A would do something and B would do something else. Yeah. Like if paying some money, you have to pay it on time. It can be by installment, it can be one payment. When you buy anything, any item, when you would like to rent a flat, you can pay the money for the owner on time. When you would like to sign an insurance contract with a company, insurance company, then in this case you're going to pay the insurance money, which can be by installment or can be by one payment. Now in this case you can see that A here would have to do something and B would have to do something else. Now in case if one of them has breached the contract, they say that A breach يخالف. A has not delivered on time, or maybe the quality was not good enough, maybe no specification. Like selling this computer to somebody, I would sell it with the specifications and the quality stated in the contract. If it's not, then it means that we have a breach of the contract. One of them has breached the contract, then the second party would have remedies. Breach مخالفة, remedy, it's kind of ta'wid, it's kind of compensation, but this compensation can be financial compensation, it can be sometimes an action. Remedies we have two types. We have compensation, money compensation, you have to be, it can be sometimes a performance, an action you have to take. Because in some cases, money, it's not good enough to compensate somebody. You have to make an action. You have to take a step. So if, let's say that, well, A sold his car and his car has no quality, as it was mentioned in the contract between A and B, then B would have the right for remedies, either compensation, we can end the contract. We will look at all these details on due time. In due time, we had to see many points on these items. Most contracts we make in our life, most of them are made already, one-to-one, from one person to the second. But there are some contracts which have to be made in writing. Those contracts we make which not costing too much money, like something cheap, buying something and paying little amount of money, £100, £200, $50, things like this, it's not worth it. You don't have to write it down. If it's something expensive, most likely you would have to make it in special format. When you buy a house, land, when you buy a car, then the contract will be written down in a piece of paper. But when you buy a jacket, a headscarf, glasses, mobile phone, most likely you will not have a contract in piece of paper written down. The contract exists once I make the offer and you make the acceptance. We have the intentions, النية, and we have the value, the consideration, the money, and the item. That's a contract. It doesn't have to be in a piece of paper. Some contracts are written down in document, are documented. Documentation here just as an evidence. We use it as an evidence But in some cases, you have to. You have an obligation by the court or by the law that some contracts have to be written down. Like to buy a car, it cannot be oral contract. It has to be in writing on a piece of paper. To buy a house, we will look at these points later on. You have to write it down in a special form. It has to be signed. And it has to be authorized by a legal authority. Otherwise, it's not a contract. I mean, it's not valid. It's a contract, but it's not enforceable. We will look at such case later on. In general, as I say, that 99%, I can see myself, over 90% to 95% of contracts, oral contracts. How many times have you signed a contract in your life? How many times? You cannot remember. Yeah. You cannot remember because you might do it once or twice, 4 or 5 times in your life. You sign a contract on a piece of paper, but most likely what you do is something oral, one-to-one. This is a contract. So it's a legally binding exchange, A and B, promises, offer and acceptance, exchanging goods and money. Or it can be sometimes good and good, item and item, exchange items, service. There's something else called a quasi-contract. This is not a contract, in fact. It's a quasi-contract. It's something looks like a contract, but it's not. We assume to have a contract, but in fact there is no contract. Assuming this, like if you remember last time, we spoke about agency by stubble. We said that we have a de facto situation in which we have to assume that we had an agency, but in fact there is no agency. It's the same case. In fact, here there is no contract in a quasi-contract, but we assume by law that we have a contract. This is enforced by the court, by the judge. Look, in contract, we have offer and acceptance. We have 2 consents. Consent, قبول. But in a quasi-contract, we do not have the same situation. We have 1 offer, or 1 acceptance maybe. We have only 1 consent, not 2. We might not have consent even. In a contract, both parties, I cannot force you to buy or sell something to me. But in a quasi-contract, I can force someone by law, by court, I can force you to compensate me, and this compensation will be under the term of a quasi-contract. So, quasi-contract, we can call it sometimes implied in law contract. So if you have a question in the exam asking you to define what does it mean a quasi-contract or implied in law contract, it's the same meaning. It's not different. Quasi-contract and implied in law contract have the same meaning. So simply we can say a quasi-contract is a substitute for a contract. What substitute? Alternative. Badil. Alternative. Substitute for a contract. In a quasi-contract here, I need just somebody to read this sentence for me.
Quasi-contract is when a contract which is the bid and obligation of one non-contracting party, otherwise endorses. Quasi-contracts are global and peer-related voluntary acts of an act, from which there results any obligation, whether a third person, and sometimes are
reciprocal.
obligation between the parties.
Okay, fine. Look at it again here. I don't think it's easy for you to understand it. You have to analyze it. Look at this. It's not easy to understand it without having an example. Later on, next slide, we have an example. We can look at this case here. In a quasi-contract, the court, not the parties, not A and B, the court, the judge, wishes to impose or to create an obligation. We said these obligations, A and B, have obligations, التزاماتها, came from the offer and acceptance, from 2 consents. But when it comes to quasi-contract, this obligation comes from the court, from the judge. Because here, upon a non-contracting party to avoid injustice. We have a case in which someone would be in a situation in which we have to compensate. That person would have to claim compensation, would have to claim some money, would have to claim some benefit, but he would not do because he's got no contract. In this case, the court would impose, judge would impose يفرض فرض on the second party an obligation, and the second party would have to accept it by law. Say A makes the offer, but B refuses. He refuses. He doesn't want to pay. He doesn't want to deliver. Then the judge would enforce B, would impose on him an obligation. You have to. You have no options. Why? Because we would like to avoid injustice. Because the second party, if the second party does not accept this obligation, we would have a situation of injustice. What does it mean that? Injustice. ظلم, which can be on one party. To avoid injustice, to escape injustice, then we have to impose an obligation on the second party. And this obligation comes from lawful or a purely voluntary act of a man. Somebody makes an action, I can make an action, and you can get the benefit. Simple, like this. Someone makes an action, an activity, and the second person would have the benefit. Now the second person would have to compensate for this, would have to pay for that. I will look how, because not in all cases that second person would have to compensate or pay the money. In some cases you would have to pay, sometimes you should not. No one can force you. But if I make you to get some benefit, then for that benefit you have to compensate me. I will get the value for that. You have to compensate in accordance to the amount of the value of benefit you had. Now we'll have the example to explain it more. It will be easy for you once we have the example. But before that, we look at this here. Look, consent again. First example we had in contract, we have consent. Consent. Two of them makes the consent. Both of them accepts the contract. When it quits the contract, there is no need. I'm not waiting for you to make a consent or to accept. No, I can go to judge, I can go to court, and they will impose an obligation on you. Someone would say, well, come on, is it going to be easy like this? Why? Someone can enforce me to pay. Can I? I have the will, the free will. I have the freedom, I have the choice. Can anyone impose on me an obligation? Usually it's not. Normally no. No one can impose any obligation on me. I have the freedom to take my decision at any time I would like to take it. But in some situations I would have to pay for something because of my mistake, or because of my achieving benefit from someone else. I get some benefit from you, then I would have to pay for that benefit. And why should I take your money? Why should I get your efforts and your equipment? I should pay for this. I would have the example now. No consent is required. We have an example. A plumber, you know what's plumber? Plumber, سباك. Plumber accidentally installs a sprinkler system. Sprinkler. رشاشات المية. شفتوا في ملعب الجامعة? In the lawn of the university. So those sprinkler water. Sprinkler system in the lawn of the wrong house. Someone come to your place installing a sprinkler system when you're not at the place. Now you go back home. When you go back home, you find the fence of your garden was fixed, or maybe the wall of your house was built. Someone came and built the wall in your house. After a storm in the area, some of the walls of the houses falling down. A builder came and he built the wall of your house, or the fence. He fixed the fence, and he went back home and he found the fence was perfect and the wall was okay. Will you pay for that or not? Why not? Okay, good. Anyone else? Anyone would like to explain it more? We have many examples like this. It's not only about the fence or the wall, sprinkler. Some people get post by mistake. You can get some items in the post. In Gaza, we don't have much post here because the postal system, it's not effective. In many places like UK or France or different countries, in many of those places, that people have items delivered to their places. Like I can buy a laptop, a mobile phone, watch, glasses, and this can be delivered to my place by postman, by the postman, by delivery. And you know that in many places, that especially in UK, for example, European countries, houses, they look the same street. When you walk, they look the same. You can know by number. By mistake, sometimes you can receive some items do not belong to you, and it happens in many cases. Someone can deliver an item, a laptop, computer, something was delivered, an item, electronic item was delivered to your house, and you just opened and used it. Will you pay for this or not? What do you think? Now, if something is not mine, I should not use it. If something is not mine, I should not take it from the beginning. And if I use it, I would have to pay for that. Because I have the benefit of this item, of this commodity. If someone made me a favor, it's not a favor. It's a benefit for me. Then I would have to pay for this. You see, imagine yourself living in a building, 5 floors. And each floor you have 2 flats. 2 flats, and one day you came back home after working and you found somebody cleaned the windows of your flat, the whole windows from outside. Are you gonna pay for that person or not? Why not? By mistake, that person supposed to clean the windows of next door flat for your neighbor. He or she came to your flat cleaning the windows from outside. Will you pay for this? It's not your business. Well, look, it can be yes, it can be no. It's most likely can be no if what? No. If I don't know about it, if I have no idea, I was not there, I didn't know about it. I mean, even the man cleaned it. He cannot make it dirty again. He just cleaned it. غلب حاله. Then he cannot, or I cannot pay him. It's up to me. It's a moral thing. It's an ethical thing. If I would like to be that person, I will pay. But legally, no one can force me. If I know, this is the second case, if I knew from the beginning what he was doing, and I did not see nothing, if I knew, if I have knowledge, then I would have to pay. In this case, I would have to pay. Because look at this. Yes, it could be proven that the man knew. Well, this is a different case. So many people asking the same question. How can someone prove a case? This is not commercial law. This is called procedural law. If you claim something, if you claim anything, if you have a lawsuit in the court, it's your responsibility. You have to submit all necessary evidence. You can bring some witnesses. You can bring documents, film, any witness, any document, it can be used. It can be used. You can use it in the court. That's your job. Now the judge can stand in the court, can sit down looking at both sides, A and B. What evidence both of them have, the judge will look at the burden of the evidence here, which can be on both sides, to look which one is more strong here. It's not like in a criminal law. Criminal law, evidence has to be beyond reasonable doubt. No doubt at all. 100% intact. The evidence, perfect. But in civil law, commercial law, the evidence here, the strong evidence can be taken. If I was a judge, I will look at what kind of evidence you have and what kind of evidence she has, and then the strong one I can use. I can take my decision, my judgment, based on the evidence you have. You have to prove it. Now, we can imagine that we have a case here in which we have no dispute about the evidence. It's not our case. Our case is to compensate or not, to pay or not. We have everything, all documents were submitted, and if he knew about it, then he would have to pay. He would have to pay. The other question is how much money he or she would pay. How much would we have to pay in this case? I did not sign a contract with them, with that person. I did not sign, but by court, I have an obligation. I have to compensate you. This is what we call a quasi-contract. By court, you did not sign a contract with me. Here, A and B, they had no contract. They did not have it. But A has done something for B. But B has to pay by court, by force. So the court would make the obligation, would impose the obligation. Then this is what's called a quasi-contract. But how much you're going to be? Because we know from the beginning, if we have a contract, most likely in this contract, we can state exactly how much money I would pay for the item, for the service. But if we have a quasi-contract here, we did not state from the beginning how much I would pay. Then how much would it be? How much would it be? Easy question, come on. Someone was doing something for you, a favor, not favor, getting benefit for you. You take an item, how much would you pay for this? Why should you have a discount? Well, it's not. This is not the case. The case that we have a quasi-contract. A quasi-contract legally have the same obligation like a contract. Obligations are the same. You would have to pay. But how much you're going to pay, it's not up to you. You have to pay fair market value. Fair market value. سعر السوق. How much it costs on the market. How much would it cost when you hire somebody to clean the windows? When you hire somebody to make the fence for your garden? How much would it be when you be an accountant? How much would it be when you buy a laptop? Now, this fair market value means the defendant liability. We have a defendant, المدعى عليه, المدافع عن نفسه, defendant liability. If I was the defendant, that man cleaned my windows or my fence, I got the item, a defendant, how much should I pay? A defendant should be equal to the value of the benefit conferred by the plaintiff المشتكي. Benefit conferred يعني المنفعة اللي أخذتها من المشتكي. How much he gave me a benefit, then I can take the much benefit I have, the value of that benefit, I would compensate that person equal to that value, equal to that benefit. Says here, it's not necessarily the subject value. It's not necessarily the subject value defendant enjoys. I may get benefit more than the value I supposed to pay to the plaintiff. I will have an example of that. Usually, how much money should I compensate or should I pay? It would be equal to the value of the benefit. Let's say that I had a new laptop which costs on the market $800. Then he cannot ask me for $1,000. I would be only $800, not $500. How much it costs somebody to clean the windows? It costs like 200 shekels, for example. Then I would pay the amount of money. That's fair market value. But in some cases, I should not pay that. Maybe I will pay less or more. sometimes. Like here, it's not necessarily subject value. Subject يعني القيمة الحقيقية اللي حصلت عليها المنفعة. I can get benefit out of you for 10,000 pounds. 10,000 pounds. But then in this case, I will only pay you 1,000 pounds. How is this? It depends on the situation. We have a case like here. Somebody can read it and then I will explain it to you. We have a case in which a company used to pay tax, annual tax, about 10,000 pounds. You know, the tax, it's income tax. We don't know how much exactly. It can be 10, 9, 11, 12, 8,000 pounds. It depends on how much work or how much income we have. How much income we have. But most likely, my company paying tax on annual basis about 10,000 pounds. 2009, I paid 13,000 pounds. And I had a feeling that tax was too much. I should not pay that amount of money because this year we had income less than last year, which we paid tax 10,000 pounds. Then I hired somebody, which is called, I know, she's a good accountant. She's a good accountant. What she did for my company, she did only the tax preparation service. ملف الضريبة. Tax preparation service for 1 week. For 1 week. She found out that we should pay only 9,000 pounds. 9,000 pounds. After she did her job for 1 week, I realized that my company this year should pay only 9,000 pounds. Now the difference is 4,000 pounds. I can take it back from the tax office. I can send an application for refund from the tax office. And this refund from tax office 4,000 pounds would be given to her or to me? To the company itself. Now, someone would ask me how much she can get, how much can she get from that money? My accountant made for me a favor. Well, she was doing her job actually. And because of what she did for me, I got 4,000 pounds. How much she can take from that money? We did not say anything. We did not state in our contract how much I'm going to pay here. Half? Why is that? Why can't she take the 4,000 pounds? Why not? She can't. Okay, in this case we have value, subject value. I got benefit 4,000 pounds. Now how much should I pay? Now she's complaining. What? Let's imagine that she's making the complaint. And in this case she was here, the plaintiff, and I was the defendant. I got the benefit because of her 4,000 pounds, but then I should not be here 4,000 pounds. I would be in the fair market value. How much is the fair market value? For somebody working for 1 week, a person, an accountant working for 1 week, how much he can get? Maybe 300 pounds, 500 pounds, something like this. I should not be here the whole amount of money. Imagine that if we have the opposite case. She found out everything was fine and I should not get nothing from the tax office. Should I be here or not? After she made the tax preparation service, she found out that everything was perfect and we can take nothing from the tax office. Can I be here? Of Of course I should pay her because she did the job for me. And even I did not get a benefit, I would pay her. I would compensate her. Okay. Okay, in this slide now we can see, we can move to contractual formation. How can we form a contract? How many conditions do we need? How can we sign it? How can we make it? How can we end the contract? How this contract can be affected legally? First of all, we have to look at the conditions. How many conditions, how many elements do we have to have in a contract to be valid? To make a contract, we have to have offer and acceptance. Condition number 1 is offer and acceptance. Condition number 2 is intention. Condition number 3 is consideration, which we call it sometimes the value, the money or the item. Number 4, in some cases, only in some cases, we have to have a special form. Like we have 3 conditions: offer and acceptance, intention, and consideration. But in very few cases, we can have additional point, additional condition, which is called formalities, in which we have to write the contract in a special form. One of the famous cases in commercial law was company, as you can see here, advertised a medicine, and this medicine was for influenza, flu. That medicine was like a small ball. This ball makes a smoke ball, and this cures the influenza. Famous case of forming contract is here. 19th century in England, medical firm advertised a new drug, and this new drug, smoke ball, would cure يعالج people's flu, and if it does not, then you can get £100. The company advertised, as you can see here, this is the advertisement. It says in the newspaper that maybe about 150 years ago, maybe more. It says that £100 reward. If this medicine does not cure the patients, then you can get £100 reward. And £100 was too much money. Like £100 today is nothing. It's not much money. £100, I don't know how much can be in 150 years ago. Maybe a hell of money. Yeah, it's worth it. Now, after a few weeks, the company had many claims from the customers, from the patients, clients, claiming the money. If it was your company, would you pay them? You have many clients coming to your company, or we call them patients anyway, patients, coming to your company claiming for the money. Everyone wants £100. Would you pay? Why? Okay. Okay. Well, they have the proof. Then you have to be why. What's the legal basis for this? Legal basis. Good. Anyone else? What do you think? Would you pay? Now the company refused to pay. Said, well, they're not going to pay that. No, the patients have the proof that they used the medicine, but the medicine was not effective. Yes. Now they complained. They went to the company, refused to give them money, reward. They went to the court, and then they appeal up to the high court. In the high court, as you can see here, in the high court, where is that? And the High Court, with Court of Appeal, held that it would appear to a reasonable person that we have a contract. Anyone can see, a reasonable person, شخص معقول, can see that we have a contract. Where is the contract? Where is the offer? The advertisement was an offer, yes? And using the medicine by the patient, that was the acceptance. Okay, where is the intention? The intention. The company said that we did not intend. It just was kind of a joke, just to advertise, just to attract the customers. Now the Court of Appeal said, well, this was a serious offer. It means there was an intention behind it. So the intention, see, the court would look at the intention. Did you intend or not? Did you sign this contract under threat because you were scared? Or did you sign this contract because you wanted to sign it? As one of the conditions of the contract is the intention. It's an important thing. If you threat somebody to kill him if he does not sign the contract and he signed it, there is no contract because there is no intention. In this case, we're looking at the intention, establishing the basis for intention. The company made an intention. The company has made an offer with the intention, and the company should pay for this. So the court make the company compensate those customers. Well, that's a different. This is something else. Now we have today many companies advertising many items in the market. You can look at TV, see many channels only advertising things, items, commodities. When you use them, you find them not effective. But people don't claim, don't ask for compensation. But it's your right. You can ask. You have the right for full compensation. Somebody promises you that this item is excellent. Problem is that they don't have a credibility. They're lying in the advertisement, but they do not offer you anything in return. They don't say, well, we're going to pay you 100, 200 pounds. Say, well, this item is excellent. It's one of the best on the market. It's amazing. And then take it and use it, and you're going to like it so much. And then, but there's no reward. But this company made a mistake. The mistake it made says, well, if the medicine is not good, then we will pay you 100 pounds. And I bet this. It's kind of a betting. يعني مقامرة فيها. Betting. Let's look at the first condition, number one. Condition number one is offer and acceptance. How can we make an offer and acceptance? How many times you made contract this month? How many contracts have you done? Any one of you? A lot. How do you do them? All right. Go on. Okay. Can be by words, most likely by words, by saying something, by stating. It can be by action. When you go to a store, you would like to buy a full address, and you find the address on the window of that store, and it says this costs 200 shekels. Just went to the store and you pay the money and get the address. Then you have made a statement, but the other person did not say anything because the offer was on the window. It says when you buy a mobile phone from a store, and you have a label in the mobile phone that says this costs 500 shekels. Then you take the mobile phone and just pay the money. Sometimes can be by action. Sometimes can be by hints, by impression. Sometimes you can make the contract implicit, explicit. It depends on the case. Offer and acceptance most likely can be orally. It can be written down. I can say what I can write you a letter saying I would like to buy some commodities from your store, and you send me another email saying, well, this is fine. These commodities cost so and so. So offer and acceptance can be made by many forms, by many ways. But the most important feature of contract is the offer and acceptance. Offer and acceptance. And these are something we can see it, something we can notice, something can be physical, something we can look at, something we can listen to. When you say, well, I would like to sell my mobile phone for £100, that's an offer. It's clear. You can listen to me, you can hear me, you can see the item. Or someone else says, well, I accept this offer. That's simple. That's a straightforward offer and acceptance. Offer and acceptance. So we have something called concurrence of wills. Concurrence of wills. Concurrence اللي هو تزامن, spontaneous, at the same time of wills. I will اللي هي intention. My intention and your intention at the same time. My will and your will at the same time, spontaneously. We have a concurrence of wills. By the way, this was a definition in the exam once before. This was a question in the exam. I forgot the question exactly, but it was talking about concurrence of will. In some cases, that both parties have to be engaged in conduct. Engaged in conduct, manifesting their assent. Assent and consent are the same meaning. Assent, it means acceptance. Yeah. Sometimes they can, both of them can be engaged, مشغولين, busy in conduct. Conduct like negotiations. And you know that most likely we have in our society that people would like to negotiate. They cannot buy something from the first look. You have to negotiate for many hours, few days, looking at different stores, and then you decide to buy something. Then this process of conduct negotiation, manifesting your assent. Some situations it's not easy to know if we have an offer or not, if we have an acceptance or not. Some people make consent, but it's not clear. Like when I say to you that I'm going to sell my mobile phone, it's clear. You can understand that. If I have my mobile phone, if I have my car, and I have a notice on my car say for sale, my car is for sale, and it costs $10,000. That's a clear identification. It's a clear indication of offer. It's an offer. But in some cases we cannot know. It's not we cannot know. We have some dispute between two people. Did we have an offer, acceptance or not? If we have a dispute, what can we do? Negotiate? No. A dispute in which we cannot know exactly. Like, I have my laptop and I have 50 students, and because it's cheap and everybody would like to buy it, everyone would want to buy it. I have a book and it's the last book, the last item, and I have 20 people and everyone would like to buy it. The one who makes the first offer can buy it, isn't it? Yeah. The one who makes the first acceptance, it becomes, because I made the offer, and any one of you who make the first acceptance, then he can get the laptop or the book. But sometimes, like, some people can dispute because I will not like this. I would say, well, someone else later on paid me more. He paid the double amount of money. Then I can't take back my offer. I should not take back my offer. I cannot take back my offer. My offer is valid until I have an acceptance. I mean, once I have acceptance, before I take back my offer, it's a contract. I can take back my offer at any time. Anytime. Before anyone makes an acceptance. But if anyone makes an acceptance, then my offer is valid. We have a contract. I cannot change my mind. I take back my offer after somebody makes an acceptance. Then in this case, some people sometimes dispute the fact if we have an offer or acceptance or not. Some cases, then we have to look at the reasonable person. Here, we can bring a judge, somebody, a mediator, someone to look at this case to see, well, do we have an offer, acceptance, or we do not have? We don't know. But most likely it's clear. Can I bring two people having their case? One of them said, well, I made the acceptance, and the second said, well, I did not hear him. He did not say it. I can use my judgment, look at both cases, look at evidence to make a reasonable person. Offer and acceptance can be by words, can be written, can be oral. Offer and acceptance can be sometimes only by promising. Promise. If I promise to sell you my car, if you pass the exam, then that's a promise. It's a conditional. Once you pass the exam, then I can sell you my car. It's a valid offer. It's an offer, but it's by a promise. Someone, promising someone. It can be sometimes by delivering. So offer can be by many ways. Can be by words, oral or written. Can be by conduct, like deliver. Passing the item. Taking the computer and give it to you. Pass it to you. Can be delivering it, sending, resending, rendering. It can be by any way. Look at this slide, it's somehow important. We have implied contracts. Most contracts are made clearly, explicitly, expressly. Sometimes they are made implicitly, implied. We have two types, implied in fact and implied in law. But how can we define implied contract? Implied contract, something is not clear 100%. Some of the terms, if this is the contract here, we have a contract and some of the terms, these are terms, 1, 2, 3, 4, the terms can be like the price, the name, the location, the quality, description. All these we call them terms. بنود في العقد. Sometimes some of them can be unclear. Some of the terms are not expressed in words. This is what we call it implied contract. In general, implied contract in which we have some of those terms are not expressed in words. But it's a full contract, it's a valid contract, and it's perfect. But these terms are not clear. We have two ways. One of them it's called implied in fact, and the second is implied in law. The implied in fact, we can understand from the circumstances that we have a contract even though it was not done expressly. I can understand from the situation that I have a contract, but even though we did not say anything, we did not express anything. Like when you go to a coffee shop, what do you buy? Coffee. Yeah. I take a coffee and you take cheesecake. Then you pay the money and you leave. Is this a contract or not? It is a contract. Did you say anything? Did you discuss how the contract? No. It's by action. It's implied in fact. If you have a question in the exam, I don't want the example. I want the meaning. The meaning is I can understand from the situation, from the circumstances, that we have a contract even though it was not expressed in words. Like when you go to a medical doctor, when you go to a dentist to clean your teeth, and then after you clean the teeth, you pay the money for the service and you leave. Did you discuss any contract with the dentist? No, you did not discuss any contract. Then this is implied in fact contract. It is a contract. It does not, or did not written, it was not written down in a piece of paper. It was not made in words even. But it's by conduct. It's not expressly made. It's implicitly. I can understand, and you can understand, that we have a contract. It's implicit. ضمنية. But in fact, it's a full contract. Second type, it's implied in law, which is called quasi-contract. The one we just explained a few minutes ago at the beginning of this lecture, and we have the example of the sprinkler system and the cleaner. This is the same case. Implied in facts or implied in law, and a quasi-contract is the same, in which the court, the judge, would impose an obligation on one party to avoid injustice. And we have the whole example. We'll take the second condition, which is consideration and estoppel. I want you to focus mainly on consideration. Leave estoppel for now, leave it. Estoppel, it does not have a specific meaning in dictionary. You're not going to find the meaning, but you'll find it somewhere in when you look at the legal dictionaries. It's a de facto situation in which we can assume a case or situation even it was not there. It's kind of a de facto situation. Now, consideration is the value paid for a promise. When we say consideration, offer and acceptance, consideration is the value. The value, the money, the item, the service. These are called considerations. We have an example on this, which is the car. Can you read it? Okay. Speak up, speak up. Do you understand it? I have my car and you have your money. I want to sell my car and you want to pay the money. Now my consideration is my car and your consideration is the money. So it's the value, the amount of money and the item. These are called consideration. Easy. Now the money can be paid by one payment, by installments, can be paid before delivering the item, can be paid after. Depends on the contract between the two sides. But this consideration has to be sufficient. Consideration has to be sufficient. This is one of the most difficult points in this chapter. Consideration has to be sufficient. What does it mean? The value has to be sufficient. Will be equal to the benefit, isn't it? Like, if my car cost £5,000, when I sell it, I will get £5,000, more or less. Not exactly 100%, but consideration has to be sufficient. It means sufficiency here. Here, look at this. Does not mean sometimes to have the subject value. Sufficiency does not mean to have a subject value in the market, exactly how much it costs. It can be more or less. If I go to a shop to buy a mobile phone, and this mobile phone costs like £200, and everyone knows this costs £200, and I paid £300, I didn't know. It's not my mistake. I don't have much knowledge about the mobile phone and how much they cost. And I went to somebody to the store, and because he knows that I have no information, then he increased the amount of money. He raised the price, and I had to pay more than what expected. Would you think this contract will be fine or not? Can I go back to that person and say, well, I want my money back, take your mobile phone? Why not?
Because the contract is done.
Even if it's done. It might be deceiving, maybe not. This is a different case. We'll look at it. Look, read it loudly. Read it loudly.
Consideration of one party greatly exceeds that of another. May be held in vain for lack of sufficient consideration or no consideration.
See, we have the car and we have the money, car and money. The car cost £5,000. Now we should exchange the money for the car. This will call sufficiency of the value equal this car cost in the market after the evaluation only £5,000. Then I should not pay 10 or 9 or 7 or 8 or whatever. I should pay the amount of money. It can be a little bit more, a little bit less, which is fine. Sometimes we have lack of sufficiency, lack of sufficient consideration, or no sufficiency, no consideration. When we have one of the values is more than the other, because it's not fair. Why should I pay an amount of money more than the benefit I get? When you buy a jacket from the market and you know the same jacket exactly in the next door shop, half of the price, half. What are you going to do? Are you going to take it back? Or are you going to keep it? Some people will keep it. Say, well, come on, it just, why should I take it back? It's not worth it. Some people will take it back. When you make a transaction, and especially people who make a transaction costing thousands, maybe millions of pounds, then you have to reconsider the whole case, saying that to yourself that someone should deal with you according to the price in the market. How much you're going to be, it will be equal to the benefit. How much benefit I got. How much benefit I got from this laptop, I would pay for this. In this case, we have to establish the fact, if we have no sufficiency, no consideration, this contract is not valid. I can take it back. I bet that if you take something back to somebody in our society here, he will throw you out from the store. We don't have that customer service. People losing their reputation, they don't care much about customers. They just want to make the money. They don't care much about customer service. They don't know that on the long term they're losing. They're not gaining much. But in this case, it's your right. You can go back and ask for your money back. You can end the contract, or you can take the difference. Say the car cost £5,000. I paid £7,000. I can go back to that place, to that person. Say I can end the contract, or I can take the difference of the money. Isn't it? It's my right. Otherwise, because this contract is not completely valid. There's something wrong with it. We have no consideration, no real value of this car. You know that in Islamic law, we have something like this. In Islamic law, it's called al-ghubn. Did you hear about it? Al-ghubn. If you have al-ghubn, this means that if the amount of money you pay exceeded 20%, one fifth, then this contract is not valid. يعني مسموح لعند 20%. You are allowed to increase the amount of money up to 20%. Profit. Now, I would like to sell this computer for £600, despite the fact it's in the market for 550. It's my right. Up to a limit. I cannot, like in the future, if the customer come back to me, well, it's my money and it's your computer and the contract is done. But if this amount of money was increased, like who can judge? Who can say that we have lack of consideration or not? Judge. A reasonable person in the market can still, if we have a reasonable amount of money paid or not, if we have a subject value or not, if we have a consideration or we don't have a consideration. In this case, then, as I said to you, we can end the contract. But sometimes we have even different ways. We can end the same contract by such contracts may also be held invalid for deception, fraud, duress, unequal bargaining power. We have many other ways we can end the same contract. I can say, well, that man sold me the car for £8,000, and even though it cost £5,000, he was cheating. He was cheating. He was not doing his best to sell his car as it costs in the market, then I can establish the basis here. The fact I can establish it on some legal basis. I can end the contract because we have no legal basis. Either we have lack of consideration, يعني مبلغ المال ما كانش مساوي للitem. There is no balance between the benefit and the value. We have always to have that balance, benefit, value. I will get the benefit, cost £5,000, I will be £5,000, more or less, not to exceed the amount of money. Otherwise, I can end the contract. The last slide, just to complete the subject here. In civil law countries, civil law, they do not use consideration anymore. So it's enough to have offer and acceptance and intention. They cancelled it. So, well, it's not our business. You get 10,000, 20,000, that's up to you and him. He accepted that. You accepted it from the beginning. You can establish, if you would like to end your contract, because I found this car too expensive for me. I paid £8,000 and it cost only £3,000. It was my mistake. That's what they're saying. It's your mistake. You can fix it. If you cannot, just leave it. Keep it as it is. Unless you can establish a new fact that that one who sold you the car was cheating. He was deceiving you. في غش في خداع واضح. Otherwise, there is no thing called consideration. There is in common law, they said we have to change consideration by stubble. This is the point here. They said we have to change consideration by stubble, in which they say that we have no consideration, but we have offer and acceptance, and we have intention. But we can replace consideration by a stubble, in which we can assume that we have a contract, even though in fact there is no contract. Why there is no contract? Because we have lack of sufficient consideration. I said the amount of money was not equal to the benefit. The value was not equal to the benefit. In this case here, even though we don't have consideration, we can say, well, the contract is valid because we have an offer and acceptance and we have intention. But then this contract will be based on stubble. It's equal to the quasi-contract. It's a contract by stubble. And then we can see if we have any legal points in which we can cancel the contract or not. Like if we have deception, or fraud, unequal bargaining power, or something else, then we can end the contract. Otherwise, it's fine, and we can just cancel. So many scholars nowadays said there is no need for consideration. You don't need it anymore. It's your mistake. You have to look. You have to be careful. You have to look at the contract. You have to look at the value and the benefit. You have to study what you want to buy. It's your business. It's your life. This is according to some legal systems in the West. They say we have someone in a weak position and someone in a strong position. A weak and a strong bargaining power. هذا المساومة. No, we have to be in equal situations. Otherwise, like the weak person will not be able to negotiate at the same level. لا بيحمي. The law will protect people. أو النظام اللي حكينا عنه, what we said before here, الغبن, and the same thing which we have now here, which is called the consideration. Have sufficient consideration, equity between value and benefit. You have to establish this fact, the balance between the value and the benefit between the two parties. Well, thank you for your time, and I'm going to see you Tuesday.